Hello. We are so excited about today's episode. It is part of a 3-part series for families with kids who have unique challenges and abilities, is what we like to say. And we are just so blessed to have been able to work with them. And we are so excited to have a guest today who is, I'm just going to let her tell you her whole story. She's amazing. I've known her as a fellow homeschool teacher, and I've had her kids in my class. And so our homeschool journeys have run parallel a little bit, right? But we are going to let Lorie take over a little bit and start us off and tell us ways that first she's going to tell us a little bit about herself and how she got to what she's doing today. And then she's going to go into the talk about kids and their physical growth. So kids who have special needs and how we can kind of nurture that physical growth, and some really exciting things that she does to help them out and support these beautiful homeschool families. All right. How you doing, Lorie?
All right. Good. Thank you. Thank you for the great introduction. I appreciate it. Yeah, just a quick background about me. I am a special needs kid, I guess, not needs, but abilities child. I was tested back in middle school, and they were bringing me in for gifted testing, but they realized I was severely dyslexic. And I ended up, instead of gifted, I was put into a reading program, which I'm eternally grateful for. I actually became a speed reader, which as I moved through post-secondary school was of great help.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing that oftentimes we forget that when we are looking at what looks like a deficit, we forget that there's, God always provides amazing offset, amazing surplus on something else. And
I love that.
That has always inspired me through the years. Now, funny enough, my background is pre-med and poli-sci, nothing to do with what I'm doing now. Then when the computers really started getting going, I moved into graphic arts. I used to work for something called Kinko's, so that's going to date me a little bit.
Oh, wow.
And I on Kinko's, and I've got a unique opportunity to do a segue into the print industry. So I went from graphic arts and then into management and then so on. And eventually the internet came around on a bigger level, and I moved into that. And long story short, I had a 20+ year career in technology as a senior consultant. So I was a road warrior, 24/7, a lot of times, emergency situations. And but I was also called mom.
Lorie, wait a minute. I did not know you were going to say any of what you just said. I had no idea you had an IT career.
I had this whole other life. Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, this is
very corporate.
Yeah, but this is encouraging to homeschool moms who think, oh, I have to be a teacher to homeschool my kids. Because I'm telling you, just before we started the recording, I was saying how much my son loves her as a teacher at the co-op. And she hasn't, I wasn't expecting you to say that.
Yeah.
But by road warrior, do you mean that you drove around and like fixed all of the technology things?
I was actually doing software and web design. So I would sometimes I would take a team of, let's say, 10 to 20 people with me. We would meet with a client, and sad to say, we were in situations that were a little dire. So we came in, we fixed the software, we helped them develop a new application or new website, whatever they needed. And so I was coordinating art teams and tech teams, from the programming side, and of course, architects and upper management, and trying to keep all these people happy and varied personalities,
So this is how it goes in a homeschool family, especially you have 4 daughters. And so you're taking all that background knowledge about how to basically work a project and organize a project and delegate responsibility, and you funneled that right into your homeschool.
100%, 100%. I took everything I knew and my love for education in general. I had the most amazing teachers growing up. I thank all of them. If they happen to see this, they were wonderful people. And I was very blessed to have them in my life, even though it was a public school setting. Really, the multi-sensory, anything and everything you could think of you'd want in teachers, I had it. So but as far as like us as homeschooling moms, yes, 100%, you can. What happened to me was I was crazy, and I thought when my first daughter was born, I was going to stay, I can't even get this out of my mouth, road warrior. And I was going to take a nanny. I was supposed to work for IBM. They were going to put my husband on the road with me. And I was like, yeah, we'll just take the nanny and the child can be with the nanny. Well, my child was born. And
Reality sets in.
well, and that emotional just love and no, I'm not leaving you and no.
Yes.
I was already sort of on a quest for a different life, maybe less, I'm going to own this. I was not born again yet. I was raised in faith, walked away. My husband at the time was from Vietnam and he was an atheist. So we were not in faith-based, but I knew God had it in my heart that I needed something different for her. And I was like, nope, not doing it. And everybody was like, wait, what? I'm like, no, I'm sorry, I'm not. So I started my own company and I started working with small businesses and nonprofit. And I literally put her in a sling and took her with me. And, she was raised with me, meeting other people and sitting there playing with her blocks or whatever.
What a power move.
I was just like, and then of course my second daughter came along. There was a whole new set of interesting, cool experiences. And then now I'm like two, I'm like, no, now I'm like, no, 100% I am homeschooling. My second daughter was born and she is definitely on the Asperger's spectrum. That's part of me also. And she had severe sensory challenges. And I was like, traditional setting is not going to work for her. Yeah. Additionally, this was a child who would take Legos and make the most incredible constructions at the age of 2 and 3 that even adults I think could do. And I was like, okay, I'm dealing with somebody with a high IQ, but sensory. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, all right, nope, we're doing homeschool. And luckily my husband was on board with me. We went for it and it went from there. I mean, he would come in and help on certain things, whether it be math or science or anything, honestly. And then I'm going to roll in, but both of us were athletic. I have to say, I think that was my saving grace growing up. I was a competitive swimmer. Then I was into biking, road biking, surfing, name it. I did it. And he was too. He was into men's hockey and running or track and things like that. And he also has dyslexia. So long story short, all 4 of my children have dyslexia, some at different levels. Like I said, my one daughter definitely presents with Asperger's. And then we also have some other things that have come along that have put some academic challenges in place. So the homeschooling environment has been excellent. And I'm going to tell you in a kind of a nutshell why. I'm in my master's program at Southeastern University. Thank you to them. They
right now you're doing that.
I am. They were willing to take me on. I thank them so much. But what I'm realizing is that one-on-one opportunity or that small environment, the one-room schoolroom environment, does some amazing things with children with any kind of disability. It also gives us the opportunity to take breaks and go ride a bike, take breaks, go play in the yard, go, whatever the activity may be. And that's going to roll into what you were asking me or suggesting about what I'm looking at now. I started Cela Education, which is piggyback onto my 11 years of tutoring. And what I realized is my students with dyslexia, ADHD, ODD, different things, honestly, kids, they need to move. They really do. Focus, and this has been proven in peer-reviewed research, is only about 15 minutes for like new material.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. New material, we do 15 minutes and then we're like, okay, let's get up and do whether it be a lab or we actually physically go do something. And then my whole school Cela Education is based on that, actually having a environment that's exactly how our day goes. I have had elementary school children my first semester, and then I had middle school this last one, and it has proven to be wonderful. Now, those families chose to mainstream their students back into public school or private school. That's everybody has to go on their comfort level.
But I mean, hold on, you gave them so many great interventions and confidence and motivation and all the things, bolstered them enough to be able to go back into that setting, which is huge.
Wow.
Yeah. And how to strategize too. Yeah. What do you do when you're starting to feel like learning that cue of when am I not being focused anymore? what can I do when I'm not feeling focused anymore? Even if I can't get up and walk the room, because not every teacher is going to be very understanding of that. But what else can I do? Should I take a piece of gum with me? Should I be able to tap my fingers? Should I be able to jiggle my leg? I mean, I know that's distracting sometimes to other students, but honestly, for some students, it's necessary, especially the kinesthetic learner. The kinesthetic learner has to have the ability to move some component of their body. I'm not huge on the fidget spinners, only because everybody else wants to take them and play with them. But that's why fidget spinners or fidget toys have become so incredibly important for a lot of students, is because it gives them that kinetic outlet that they need while they're learning. Are you guys sure?
Girl,
Well,
my daughter ordered this. It took like 3 months to get here straight
I
from
like
China.
that.
from China.
But if I don't have something, like right now I have this really great fabric that I'm touching, I will rip the skin off of my nails. I'm like, oh, what is wrong with me? Like, just, I've noticed this when we're doing podcasts, especially. I cannot, like, I need something to,
The more focused,
Well,
the more focused somebody
where's my
is. And
gum?
what do
Right,
you have?
Jenny, always,
I always have to take my gum out before we do this. So Kim gave me Elmo to put it on there. And my
So
son
then-
is the same. Like, I have to, when I'm working, I have to chew gum to keep me awake. Like 2 pieces, like really big in my.
And like really giving you that
oh God,
contact
just,
sensation. Yeah, yes.
girl, just you saying that makes me want to gag, but for real, she will pop that in as soon as this recording is done. And before I got her that Elmo, she would just put it any place. I'm like, no, we're going to
on
get
my
you a little
keyboard. It was
dude.
so
Behind the
gross.
ear, like the old movies behind the ear, right?
I know, it's really gross.
So even us as adults, we need to keep something like, I don't know, the wheel needs to be spinning in order for us to be able to like focus our
Yes.
eyes.
Yes. It's just how we're wired. You know, the more I'm really a research junkie. That's totally something else I haven't even mentioned.
Yeah.
I've been involved in research in psychology and anthropology off and on for years. And just my pre-med aspect, I serve as an advocate in medicine and in education. So, you know, our brains are structured differently. They anatomically are different. The wiring and what fires at different points are known to be different. Okay, God made each of us wonderfully, right? And uniquely.
Yeah.
And great. So because that different wiring gives us different perspectives and abilities. So if we need to chew gum, we chew gum, right? So
Exactly, yes. That's funny. And
So-
when I just took my when I just took my certification tests, I went in there with all this gum in my mouth because I needed it to like keep me going, and I hadn't slept well the night before. And the lady goes, "No, you need to spit that gum out."
What?
Oh no, I can't spit that gum out. She goes, "You have to. It's like on the rules on the sheet at this testing center."
What?
I was
And
not
that's-
allowed to chew the gum. She made me spit it out.
You needed your 504 plan, Jenny.
I was just
I
going to
know. Well, the next time I went in, I hid it. I felt like I was in middle school again.
Oh.
I had it in my mouth, and I made sure that no one
Rebecca.
saw it as I was going in the room. I had to push it up to the top.
Oh my gosh.
I
Yeah.
freaked out. I was like, "Oh no, I'm not going to do well."
That's something important that you bring up, though, is that as homeschoolers, I think sometimes we forget that when our students need to go into testing, because sometimes SATs, things like that, or even the PERT for dual enrollment, that we can work within the community to get them accommodations. And I cannot stress that enough, to take that emotional, and it's a lot of times it's just emotional stress because the student is just like, oh, I'm going to run out of time. There's nothing wrong with getting established with accommodations for them, length of time, somebody to read the exam if they need that. I've even had it situated where a student was in a room by themselves so they could read themselves out loud and hear themselves, because that is what helped. So we could have gotten your gum on there.
No,
For
I don't
sure.
have a 504.
Hide it.
For sure.
We were talking about movement, and one of the things that's
Yes,
interesting that movement is that it orients the brain, especially if you have students that are presenting with dyslexia. You need the left-right movement alternating, like what would happen normally in walking. So a student presenting with dyslexia, it's ideal for walking and running, but even things like where you do Superman and you've got one opposite side leg out and switch, and Russian twist moving back and forth. anything that will also center you into the core and build the core, which is to me tremendously interesting, because I think that God has mimicked systems. And I think it's interesting because one of the areas of research right now is in the what's called the white matter of the brain. It's the deeper area, the core of the brain. And they think that's where mainly the differences are lying for students. And I thought, oh, how interesting. Then that's the core of our body that needs to have that strength and control to be able to move everything and synchronize the mind. So I strongly encourage anybody themselves or that have students, work on that, work on left-right movement and alteration in any kind of form you can. And I think you've seen some things too, right? In your realm.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about this many times, when Jenny and I were public school teachers, they finally went through a training for all the teachers and really for all the kids. So like before testing, you would have them, or before you could do it anytime, but it was these focus exercises like the lay down 8 and the cross your knees. I think it was called brain games.
That's another one, great one. Yes.
Right.
Crossing the midline to wake
Crossing
up
the mid.
both sides of your brain. And I had a lot of kids who could not do that in first grade.
Correct.
And it was so eye-opening to me because I was a new teacher and I thought, this is crazy. I can't get this kid to to cross over. They kept going on the same side. And so a lot of those kids would have reading difficulties as well, or writing. Yes. So I was like, okay, we're going to work on this.
And what I found, because I was originally at a Bayside, and what I'm finding is actually the gymnastics, and I now found peer-reviewed support on this, the gymnastics area, just doing a forward roll, right, what we call a somersault, right? Just doing that can give you indication of where the weakness is, and that if they're out of line. Now, what I'm saying there too is sometimes, right, they won't be able to do that. Even kids who I've had students that are very athletic, and I ask them to do a forward roll and they're like to the left, to the right. Wow. Now, that's also given me sometimes indication to check their eyes. And we've got wonderful eye doctors in the area that specialize in getting students with the right lenses. Sometimes it's just a one lens correction. They have a slightly lazy eye, we would call it traditionally. The eye's just not tracking. And so you're getting two signals into the brain when you go to read or to write. And this eye thinks you're done, but this eye is like, no, we're not. You know what I mean? You're getting either duplicate information or you're not getting enough information.
And I noticed that when I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, go ahead. No, so go ahead.
I noticed that when I was doing reading interventions, because I got to sit one-on-one with students, and sometimes they would like look down and then look up, like they could not stay tracking.
Correct.
So our trainers would say, do these eye exercises with them to have them track with you first, warm up their eyes. And that was eye-opening to me as well. That was never something I would have looked for.
Right. And people don't. And back then to the physical, I noticed that as they are able to do a forward roll, the reading and the tracking got better. So there's definitely something to all of this. Yeah.
Yeah. So we just, in the past couple of years, my son actually had vision therapy, which is different than just adjusting the lenses. Right. And I would sit in every time and I was like, okay, why are they doing this weird thing that seems to have nothing to do with his eyes? And it was all about gross motor, connecting, paying attention to your body, like mindfulness and balance, just these things that you wouldn't think related to the eyes. But so when you said to me, and I probably should have said this at the beginning, but you and I just ran into each other at Starbucks and we started talking, and I was in a hurry. I don't know if you know that I had to go pick up my son. I was going to be a little late, but in the 5 minutes that we talked, I don't think it was longer, that you told me so many things where I was like, my mind was blown. So about the physical aspect of what you're saying, and the kids that you help, and that's why, I was like, oh, that's it. You need to come to our podcast, because so many moms need to hear this, that, there is that support out there. I was just doing an evaluation yesterday, and this mama had zero information. And I remembered what I forgot before that I was going to ask you about. So if I could circle back around to that for just a minute. Sure. As far as accommodations go, when a student has a 504 plan and an IEP, And, even though they're private and they're homeschool and they might be taking, classes somewhere, or they're in Florida virtual schools or an online school, those are, correct me if I'm wrong, because I think a lot of moms with special needs need to hear this. Those are legal documents that need to be recognized. And if you say, listen, like this test has too many problems, and one of the accommodations and modifications is you need to, accept that he's not going to finish this whole entire test. Like that's a legal problem if they say no to you.
Yes,
Correct,
it is.
Lorie?
100%. I am an
100%.
ugly bulldog. I am an ugly bulldog. We just won our case up in Detroit, and it is 100% God, because mom is faith-based, I'm faith-based, and we prayed, because we were like, this mom has been looking for a lawyer for 7 years to help her because of that exact issue. We finally found a lady, and that's exactly what happened, because schools, when they don't acknowledge that, it is 100% illegal.
Right, but it's not just public school is what I'm saying.
Oh, it's
So
not.
see, God put this together for a reason, because I'm going to give your information to the lady I did yesterday. And I said, listen, you don't understand. Your kids have a legal document. And if a teacher or a school system of any kind is telling you that they're not going to recognize it, that's not okay. That's what this is about.
Federal law, not even state law.
So let's go one step further, because sometimes homeschool moms are like, oh, I'm not going for testing. I'm not getting these labels put on my kid. I'm not giving them an official government document. But in this scenario, okay, it is worth it. So kind of open your mind and look a little bit. If you're in that situation, I feel like we're talking to somebody who's listening, right? That those labels are good if your kid needs them. And that's the scenario yesterday. It was a very specific, and Lorie saying she won a court case very specific to that. So, somebody needs to hear it. Don't be afraid.
Well, I was going to say, we're getting ready to go a step further. We are looking to take this to the Supreme Court. And we're getting our ducks in a row. We're getting all the people in a row, because we've had so many violations. And the preview I have is, because I'm a tutor across the country, I'm seeing it across the country. And so just like our constitutional rights, right, our freedom of speech and everything else that comes on down the line, we wouldn't just walk away and be like, I don't want to do that because I don't want to be labeled as one of those free speech people. I would hope you would be willing to stand up and have free speech when it's appropriate. So I see this the same way. There was a lot of effort put into making sure that students got a free and appropriate education, that they were entitled to this across the country, that the Disabilities Act that went through to make sure too that when they are showing deficits somewhere along the way, that they get what they need to be on par with their peers. And I've been on both sides of the coin. I've been the mom like, no labels, no labels, no labels. Now I'm kind of in the middle of the road. It depends. Okay. Obviously what feels best for the family. I 100% back that. But there are times where it is necessary. And I've held back, especially for my daughter with the Asperger's. I've really held back for her being tested, but she's moving forward. She wants to be a counselor, and she's getting into a situation where she's reading more and she needs different interactions with people. And I'm like, you know what? I think it's time we finally go ahead and have that test done.
Now is the time. Right. We always say God's perfect timing. Right?
Exactly.
Just don't shut the door because it's offensive or something. Do you know what I mean? Like do your research and find out and be an advocate for your kid, or seek out people like Lorie who can help you. Because a lot of times we don't know what we don't know. Like this mom yesterday, she had no idea that she could say that to the teacher. She just made her kid finish the test. Well, guess what? He just quit. He just stopped, and he ended up getting a 30% on the test.
And that's very hard for the kids, because then you start to set them up with self-esteem issues, and then they start to not trust adults. And then you see a snowball into ODD behavior and things like that, because they've started to not trust adults, because nobody's standing up for them when they really are saying, hey, I'm really struggling, I need help,
Yeah. And teaching them to be an advocate. This goes along, with the social and emotional growth that we can nurture. And just all of that.
Yeah.
Whew. So you do a lot, and I kind of want to know, so when we were talking, I know that you tutor and you do that online.
Well, no, I do in person too.
In person
I do both.
and online.
Yep.
And then you bring the kids from the tutoring to like a gymnastics gym or a climbing gym, or you say you should go there when we're not, in between our sessions kind of thing?
Well, it's actually two different things. So my
Okay.
tutoring world is my tutoring world, and that's kindergarten through corporate, and it's multiple subjects, and that's 11 years of doing that. And then separate from that, when students come to my attention that need, I say, school respite. I think maybe that's a better way to put it.
Oh,
Maybe the environment they're in is not working, and families aren't ready for them to be 100% not in a schooly environment. That's when I take them and we bring them underneath the Cela Education.
okay.
And that component is where we try to be at Vertical Ventures, Jungle Gym, Bayside, somewhere where I have a safe environment that I know other eyes are available to, kind of be there with me. And where I know people have also been trained with younger students. And then we just, luckily everybody has been so gracious and wonderful at all these facilities to give us space to sit and work and then get up and do as we needed to do.
Oh, that's amazing. So you do the work, because the one gym that you mentioned, I know they have lots of picnic tables in there.
Yes.
And you do the work that they are focusing on, content, material, math, social studies, reading.
Whatever we
And
are.
then,
Yep.
hey, it's time to do the balance beam. Let's get up. 20 minutes, 15 minutes has
Yep.
gone by.
That's right. Yep.
And do you
That's-
go back and forth? So then
Yes.
that's like 15 minutes. Now we're going to go here and do this. And then
Yep.
they come back.
Yep.
Ah,
If they're on something that
awesome.
they're already doing well with and they're comfortable and they look like they could flow through for extra time, I let them. I don't break the education part of it. But I am very, very aware of where my students are at, like where that I can see where we're starting to get fussy. And that comes from years of just being one-on-one tutoring where I could see, people starting to lose focus and things like that. And so I bring that into the classroom. And as soon as I see that component, I check in with them. Hey, you think this might be a good time for us to break for a few minutes and go do something? Oh yeah, okay, great. Or they're like, no, I'm just thinking, I just need a minute. And they'll cue back with me and
So
let me know.
this is how you are teaching them strategy. Go ahead, Jen.
I was going to ask, so like once they get up, how do you know where to have them go? Or do they go and do what they feel like doing? Or do you say, I think you need this right now to move your body in this way? Or
I've let them so far be self-directed. I might limit where we're at, you know what I mean? Certain components of the gym. But, if they're willing to do something with me specifically, like the forwards rolls and things like that, I will ask first and kind of see where they're at. I try to give them a sense of ownership, of empowerment. Thank you.
Yeah.
Being able to say, this doesn't feel good to me. This does feel good to me. I feel like and they do in the classroom, they lose that a little bit. But some of these students with learning challenges feel even further down because they're worried about what the teacher's going to say. They're worried about how the peers are going to see it, So
Yeah.
just like you said, teaching them the strategies and to own it and know when this feels better, this feels better.
Yeah. And it's like, okay to have this.
Yep. And it's worked so far. I mean, my heart to all the teachers that have got 30 kids or whatever in their classroom, really my heart to them.
With no
I have the
assistance,
luxury of
so sad.
small. Yeah, I have luxury of small group. You know what I mean? This is not obviously going to work in a 30 kid classroom where you've got one teacher trying to.
Yeah, but you know what, Lorie, let's boil this down to the homeschool table and a family and a mom who feels like, okay, especially if you're using bought curriculum and it says you have to do this math lesson for whatever, right? Or they feel like, I mean, you know how many people I've evaluated and they're like, oh, we did every single page, or they felt bad because they did it. And I'm like, no, you don't understand.
It doesn't have to be like that.
Yes,
No.
these publishers, they make extra, they make tons. When you look at what the normal like public school teacher actually finished in like some workbooks or they did not, right? Maybe they did 60% of it.
That's right.
It's okay. It's to their benefit and to your benefit as a mom to look for the cues. And like Lorie's saying, physical cues, they might be fidgety or they might like all of a sudden be really quiet.
Zoned out. Yes.
Okay. So the
Yeah.
cues in your kid that say, okay, I need to get up and move. And don't we all have that? Like,
Yes. In fact, ironically, Studies for businesses have suggested that you should not sit at your desk because there was higher rates for heart and stroke and things like that. And if you didn't get up and move, like, it was amazing. It was like every 20 minutes. I was like, really? My boss would have killed me if I got up every 20 minutes.
Now, if you look at desks,
important.
it is important. If you look at desks for adults, like business, because I'm like, gosh, you need some new stuff. Like just sitting in this, I'm in a high seat right now. But anyway, they're all creative seating. And
Yes.
Jenny has a desktop
right now.
it goes up or down. And,
Yes.
there's really, I mean, just for adults, we give that grace that, okay, we're going to have flexible seating and do all these things. But for kids, it's like, for some reason we think, oh no, if they're not sitting there, then it's not school.
Yeah, it's not the 1800s, early 1900s. We're not building people to go work in factories for hours on end. So if your child wants to sprawl out on the ground and look and read and do, awesome. If they want to spin in the chair while they're telling you their multiplication tables, that's cool. I've sat in the library with the librarian has walked by wondering why my student was spinning, and I'm like, we're doing multiplication. We're learning. It's all good. And it's okay. It is okay because the children are taking things in. My kids used to be a part of something called Music Together, which was a Princeton based program for music. And it had an amazing theory. Your caregiver, your parent would sit with you. And these were for ages literally newborn to 5. And we would sit as the parents and we would, be doing the rhythm and doing the singing and participating. And the kids would be like, just kind of around us in a safe space, like everywhere. And people looking in, I'm sure, were like, what organized chaos is this? But the amazing thing was absolutely true. What Princeton found is that children are absorbing that entire time while they're moving. And so sure enough, my children would not sing in the class, but as soon as we hit the car, they were singing exactly what we had just finished. So, and I heard that repeatedly from other moms too. So it doesn't be creative. I would tell any homeschooling mom, be creative. Don't feel restricted. Don't feel limited. Don't feel limited on your own education. Don't feel limited on how it looks. What makes sense for you and your child. That's what makes sense. It's to get them educated and be confident and healthy, God-loving people, really end goal.
And it's okay to ask them and have them direct, because you are giving them the benefit of self-directing, right? So when you said the Music Together thing, I automatically thought of my jump rope class. And I don't know if you know, Lorie, that I've been teaching jump rope. Well, yeah, because your daughter was in my class. Yeah, I chose it. So I've been doing it through the Homeschool Well online, and which is interesting. But what I found is that the rhythm aspect of spinning the rope and then we add a little song to it, teddy bear, teddy bear. I mean, I had kids this last year, they were such beginners as I've never had before. We literally had to start teaching them how to jump over a line without any rope at all and being able to go to that rhythm of the song. And by the year's end, so these kids were in the 11 months, but still it was only one day a week. We were off a whole month for Christmas. And they weren't really, jump roping every day at home. By the end of that 11 months, they are doing the tricks. They can do double dutch a little bit. They definitely can run in and out of a rope. And at the beginning of the year, I'm like, oh my word, like maybe I shouldn't have taught this class with these kids. I'm gonna have to change it. And it was such a fast growth rate. I have never seen anything like that before. And honestly, it was the music, like just getting that rhythm and letting them have a really great foundation and base. And like you said, mixing it up a lot. So like even with activity, right? Mixing that up, but it's such an integral part. And listen, moms, this is why you pulled your kid, or you never sent your kid, right, on the bus or to the building, is because you get to make it exciting and engaging and innovative and creative. And if you can't do it by yourself, which most of us cannot, we need people. I sent my kid to Lorie's class, for a
vice versa. And so that's why co-ops are such, and I've lived in 3 states with my kids, and we've co-opt in all of them. And I, again, eternally grateful for those moms and dads and whomever was stepping up to expose my children to something different, you know. And if you're worried about the socialization aspect that gets said a lot, the children don't miss it. They don't. Are they sheltered? Well,
Is that a bad thing?
We're in a God-loving home and we keep our focus on what's in the word. So we shelter ourselves, shelter, if you will. But there's nothing wrong with, like you said, reaching out and sharing. And then as time goes on, sometimes you realize, hey, I like to cook. I could teach a cooking class, right? Well, what's in a cooking class? Well, there's math, right? There's reading, there's spelling if you have them write out some things. There's just the logic that comes from, that's needed if they ever wanted to go on, say, into engineering or programming, like, okay, what do I start with? How do I step through to make this final creation? So something what somebody would consider, oh, it's just cooking. No, it's not. It's many things. So never feel limited on what you can contribute back to if you do get involved.
Love that.
Something like a co-op, you know.
And if you're doing cooking at home, put it in your lesson plan book.
Yes,
right?
100%. Yep.
School is more than these paper books and these, even online classes and things. It's your life experience that are educational. And I love that you brought so many things out about cooking. Unreal. I was going to say chemistry too.
Yeah, I'm doing chemistry in the fall but I'm not cooking. So I'm like, ooh, I'm not cooking this fall. I kind of had fun with a cooking class last semester.
You're going to cook something up in chemistry. Something's going to blow up or foam up or.
I've already got the plan, especially for the middle school group. Right? I know my target audience is eager for this. They're going to be waiting. We've already made arrangements for the parking lot to be accessible to us. So yeah.
Blow the mess up by the car.
School. Oh my.
All the protective gear.
Oh my goodness. I think that was phenomenal information. And I just thank you so much for coming on. Can you tell us, and we'll also put in the show notes where everyone can find you if they want to contact you for your services?
Sure. So if you want to see a little bit more about me or what other people said, I am on WyzAnt.com. That is one of my student finder groups, which have been wonderful to me. Separate from that, I'm at Cela Education, but it's not Cela Psalms, like end of the song. It's Cela Hebrew, meaning the rock, the Jehovah,
awesome.
And so it's CELA Education. .com, and they can reach me there too. So either through WyzAnt or that, or I can even give you a direct email with me, and I'd be glad to talk to anyone. Anything, whether it be the tutoring or guidance on advocacy, whatever, or if the school might, work for somebody, or if they just want to have some idea of how to bring what I do in the school into their homeschool program, I would definitely be able to help them there.
That is so
thank you.
Awesome.
Phenomenal. Go ahead, Jen.
Yes. No, I was just saying that's awesome. That's so much help for parents who don't know what to do.
Yeah. So we'll put those links in WyzAnt, Cela Education with a C, and maybe your email address too, but look in the show notes for that. And we are so excited to hopefully do another thing with you someday. So look for a podcast with Lorie again. And until then, you feel empowered by all of these life words. That's what we prayed for at the beginning, right? And God's perfect timing, and just get active and creative. All right, homeschool moms, take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. The only thing is I don't know how to stop the recording so clean like Jenny does.
Hold on, I'll do it.